With the absence of Tom Pidcock in this week's World Cup, I was excited to see how things would shake up for Sunday's main event. The men's and women's short track races were thrilling, with Nino crushing and still getting 16th, Schwarzbomber destroying in the sprint, and then Jenny Rissveds? I'm terrible with these names, man, I apologize, but she put in a late attack that was phenomenal to watch. If you do enjoy this kind of content, please make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. Before we jump into the actual race, you have to first know just how good the rivalry between Nino Schurter and Julian Absalon was at one point in time. Absalon is the best mountain biker to have ever lived, with a staggering 33 World Cup wins to his name. For a few years, these two dominated every freaking race that they entered, but Julian has since retired from the pro mountain bike scene, and Nino has been chasing that illustrious record ever since. Julian's been retired for a few years now, and since he has retired, it has only been in the past couple years that Nino hasn't just completely dominated everything. I mean, there was 1 year, I think Nino won every single World Cup and then the World Championships. I think he's got like 10 World Champs to his name. This dude's crazy. So they started this a couple of years ago, but your start position is determined by your finishing position in the short track race on Friday. So due to a very unlucky crash, Nino had the start position of 16th place. That means he is not on the front row. And our very own American Christopher Blevins is also starting pretty far back as well. You can't help but love watching Schwarzbomber race because he reminds me of my racing style. He only has one speed, and that speed is go full gas until you look at the clock and you go, oh crap, I still have an hour. Then you try to limit your losses for the remainder of the race. But look at the freaking effort this guy puts out in the first bit. Like, if this is why I think Schwarzbomber shines in a 20-minute short track race, because short track racing is exactly what it says. It's short, so it's 20 to 30 minutes. Right when they say go, it is a full sprint. If you want to know what short track feels like, you don't even need a bike for this. Walk out your front door, look at your clock, set a timer for 20 minutes. As soon as you hit go, sprint as hard as you can. Like full blast, sprint. And don't stop until the 20 minutes is up. If you puke, keep running. That's what short track feels like. Cross-country races are typically an hour and a half. There's a lot more tactics with cross-country. You have to monitor yourself very well. And granted, he is not the lightest guy in the field either, so I knew climbing was gonna hurt him a bit. It was a high pace right from the start, but I knew Nino was feeling great when he put in this dig around the 20-minute mark. Now, I wouldn't consider this a full-blown attack. I think, on one hand, Nino was trying to pick the pace up and whittle down the lead pack at the same time, but he also wanted to see who would react to this attack, who is feeling good, who does he need to watch out for. Nino kept the pace high before pulling off the front and letting Jordan Saru take on the job of pace setting. Being on the front of a mountain bike race, I think, is a little bit more complicated than in a road race. Yes, on one hand, you don't really want to be on the front because you won't be able to utilize the draft and conserve energy. But on the other hand, you will be riding someone else's pace on the descents, and if someone messes up in front of you, you will have to contend with their mistakes.
Luca Braga, his brother, he's in 11th place. So the two brothers.
Interesting that part, you see Nino Schurter just give best to Vital Albin there and let him pass at the foot of the climb. He just wanted to sort of get a look at him and see what he thinks.
Yeah, dude, just look at Nino. He looks cool, calm, collected. He looks like he is a man with a mission this time. So right here, Nino takes back over the job of pace setting. I don't believe this was an actual attack, anything like that, but he was getting crowded a little bit. And I think it was because, it might have been because of who it was. I think Flukiger is a guy that can kind of win on just about any day, especially if it is muddy conditions. Flukiger is an amazing bike handler. So once Nino started to get crowded and it wasn't single file anymore, he wanted to get back to the front. He's really trying to stay in the top, I'd say 3 positions. I mean, look at how much that group is swelled now. So if you look at the difference in body language here, like, it's not an attack from Nino, but Matthias, even Jordan behind him, like, they're hurting. I'm sure Nino is aware of this, but he doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. He is just riding his pace, which is a good high pace, but this isn't an actual attack from him, and everyone behind him is suffering like a dog. So there you have it. Once The group whittles down once again. Nino lets Jordan take over a little bit of the pace-making responsibility. So I think his plan here is to keep the group as small as possible because he wants to know exactly how everyone is feeling when he plans his attack. So, and this is how you know Jordan Sarrou was riding really, really good, because the group has whittled down to about 5 people, but this is when Nino decides to have liftoff.
John Sarrou here who is leading. Nino Schurter followed by Matthias Luca. Now we have Pieter Alder with the yellow number plate of his bike to the number 10.
Schurter really synonymous with that.
This was awesome. Nino looks back for a split second. I think he sees Sam Gaze bridging that gap. Right whenever Sam was like a few bike lengths off, that's when Nino decided to go. It was his best chance to make sure he's the sole person going to the line, that he's not gonna have to sprint with anyone.
New environment, new motivation.
I can't imagine beasting my way through a day at the Cape Epic to sleep and attempt to wake up.
But look at the effort he puts in. I would love to see his power numbers because this has to be immense.
Looks like Nino doesn't like to see Sam Gaze coming back.
Haverly now is back with his foot. And they're off.
And all these guys are top tier riders, professionals. But this really shows you what getting your heart rate up to 200 beats a minute can do to your skill level. And what I mean by that is all these dudes are super good, right? Because of Nino's attack, because they are trying to sit on his wheel, there's a bobble. His front tire hits the dirt and almost in a rookie mistake fashion, his front wheel slides out. And that's not because he's a rookie, that's because his heart rate is at like 180 to 200 beats a minute. He's almost panicking, I would say, because I've been in the same situation, like, oh my God, there he goes, the strongest guy's going up the road. It's now or never, I have to sit on his wheel. And then your brain goes into overdrive. You stop thinking as much about your skill, how to take turns, that kind of stuff, and you're only trying to suck wheel. Now, I was super proud of Flukiger because he stuck to Nino's wheel. He's riding as far as his physicality goes, as far as his fitness level. I was surprised he was able to sit on with this attack. I was surprised he was the only one that was able to sit on. I know Jordan got caught up in that crash. I think this might have been a slightly different story if Jordan was on his wheel. I think he might have been the one to sit on, and Flukiger, and it would have been them 3 for a little bit. But Nino was having none of it. Once he hit the attack button, once he decided to dump all of his fuel, it was on like Donkey Kong. He was going to keep hammering the pace until he ripped everybody's legs off and threw them out the back. And the reason I say Jordan would probably have been the one to stick with Nino longer, I don't know if he could sit on the entire time, was if you look at this overhead shot, Jordan is the one that actually brings back the majority of the gap. But I've been there numerous times. When you get that close and you're on the rivets, you're on your limit, and you just can't close it down, it is so demoralizing. And you can see right when the rubber band finally snaps and Nino's gone forever. Nino wins by like 30 seconds before he sat up towards the end and lost some time, and I don't count that. When he was still hammering it, he won by 30 seconds. That's huge.
Schurter doesn't just write his name into the history books. Nino Schurter owns the history books. 34 career wins for Nino Schurter, the new record holder. Never in doubt, the greatest of all time. Nino Schurter wins the second round of the UCI Mountain Bike Cross Country Olympic World Cup.
Kudos to Nino. This is huge. Nino just beat Julian Absalon's record that has stood, since for the past like 5 years or something like that. It's probably been about that long. I probably need to look that up. But Nino has now solidified his place in mountain biking history as the greatest mountain biker for the cross country of all time. This is huge. Nino's like 37 years old, so he's getting close to that retirement age, right? And he officially solidified. I think he's got like 10 world championships under his belt. He won a World Cup on a 26-inch mountain bike, so his career has literally spanned a revolution in mountain bike technology, which is huge. Most people's careers last about 10 years in this sport. at the top end, and they even talk about this on the GCN live show, that if you were lucky or unlucky enough to be in Nino's 10 years, like Nino won everything. He wins everything, and he is still able to win stuff. And I think it's kind of crazy if Nino truly is just gonna retire now. When Julian was dominating and destroying the field, the new up-and-comer was Nino, and there was this great like Wout van Aert, Van der Poel rivalry going on between Julian Absalon and Nino. They would go back and forth, and up until Julian retired, Julian was still winning, but it was a lot more back and forth. And then once Julian retired, the new up-and-comer, which was Nino, started winning everything and dominated the sport. But right now, I don't see another Nino that's the up-and-comer. Like, I don't see somebody that is gonna win every single race that they enter. You have people that have great rides, like Flukiger, Saru, people like Koretsky that was like 30th place, won last year. Blevins had a mechanical, he won last year. But all these people, and this is also a reason why I love watching cross-country mountain bike racing, you'll have like 7th place come across the line with their hands raised in the air screaming because they got a top 10 in a World Cup race. You don't see that in road cycling. 7th place in road cycling is just like, I didn't win. And I get it, but I love watching the mountain bike stuff because the emotions seem almost higher than in the road cycling stuff. But there you have it. That's kind of the breakdown of how the race was won. I would love to keep discussing this with you guys. Nino Schurter has now solidified his place in history as the greatest mountain biker, cross-country mountain biker of all time. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have seen the new up-and-coming young Nino that might take over the sport, because there's a lot of people that I hope do that, but I just haven't seen somebody that can be as dominant as like a Nino or a Julian. Who knows what's gonna happen in the years to come? Let me know down below. I'd also love to cover the women's side of this. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed. See you later. Bye-bye.